The war started because two proud peoples looked at each other and saw monsters. Humans called the insectoid race the Zalari. They were tall and elegant, with chitin-like polished onyx and eyes that shone like wet stone. They moved with quiet grace, and they spoke through a soft hum inside the mind. A kind of gentle radio that could carry words and feelings both. Humans did not like that. They did not like voices in their heads. The Zalari did not like human weapons or human noise or human stubbornness. They thought humans were reckless. Humans thought the Zalari were cold. Then came the siege of Varani's Prime. It was a rocky world with orange deserts and black cliffs. The sky was thin and sharp like a blade of glass. The Zalari had built a hive fortress there, long tunnels under the ground, domes with spires like needles. Humans sent ships and soldiers. The Zalari gathered queens and guards. It was the kind of place where bad history is born. Captain Elias Corrin led the human frigate Resolute. He was not the tallest man, not the strongest. He had kind eyes, a hard jaw, and a tired soul. His hair was gray at the temples, though he was not old. He had a small scar on his chin from a childhood fall. People trusted him because he spoke slowly, and he never lied. He did not hate the Zalari, even though many of his crew did. He said we should win without losing ourselves. On the first day of the siege, the sand shook under the weight of landing ships. On the second day, the sky burned white with plasma fire. On the third day, a quake tore through the planet's crust and split the ground like a paper seam. The hive fortress collapsed in parts. Dust rose in a slow pillar. The human commands had to press the attack. Zalari queens sang in the mine to rally their guards. Elias listened to the orders in his ear. He also listened to his heart. Somewhere under the rubble, people were trapped. He sent out rescue drones. We look for survivors, he said. Human and Zalari. Life first. His second officer, Mara Lynn, stared at him. Sir, we have orders to clear the sector. The hive dome is a valid target. It's not today, Elias said. There is enough death today. They found the tunnel entrance half buried in broken stone. The ground was hot. The air was full of fine dust that tasted like salt and old metal. A team of engineers set charges to lift the fallen slabs without crushing the rest. Medics waited with stretchers. Zalar snipers watched from dark gaps, but they did not shoot. Maybe they were too tired. Maybe they felt the same fear and hope mixed in their chests, a strange warm ache that did not fit the word enemy. The charges boomed. Stone blocks shifted. A wash of stale air rolled out, and with it came a whisper, like a bell heard through water. It was not sound. It was a voice inside the mind. Help Elias stepped forward with his light. The beam cut a bright tunnel through the dust. He saw broken chambers, twisted beams, the shimmer of Zalari resin on the walls. He saw bodies, two, human and Zalari. The medics moved carefully, and they did not ask what uniform a body wore. They hooked small breath masks over narrow Zalari mouths. They pressed sealed gel on human wounds. They lifted together, shoulder to shoulder, and the work felt strange and holy. Deep inside the ruin, they found a chamber that was not like the rest. The walls were smooth. The air was warmer. There was a pulse in it, a slow throb like a heartbeat made of light. A figure lay pinned under a fallen arch, tall, dark, with a crown-like crest and abdomens marked with fine silver patterns. Around her, Zalari guards lay still. Elias knew, even before his mind filled with her voice, who she was, Queen Sarathana. Her eyes opened. They were bright and wet and very, very tired. She looked at Elias like he was a light at the end of a long tunnel. Her mind touched his mind, cautious and soft. You are human, yes, he said out loud, because speaking felt more honest to him than thinking. Captain Elias Corrin of the Resolute? There was a flicker of emotion in her presence. It felt like surprise, then something like relief, then something like shame. I am Sarathana, queen voice of this hive. My people are buried. I am pinned. We are enemies. Right now, Elias said. "We are people who need help," Mara whispered at his shoulder. "Sir, if we pull her out, Command will what?" Elias asked. "Court-martial me for rescuing a life? Then they can explain that to my face." He put a hand on the fallen arch, felt the heat, the fine tremble in the stone. "Cut here," he told the engineers. "We make a cradle. We lift slow. If this shifts wrong, the rest will fall." The Zelari Queen watched him with steady eyes. He could feel the edges of her fear. It was not a cold fear. It was deep, like a river. He did not push into her mind. He did not want to be rude. He only stood and held her gaze, and he hoped she could see that his fear was the same shape. The team worked. The cutters hummed. Sparks drew small stars in the dust. Medics crouched beside the Queen and pushed a fluid line into a vein under her chitin. They checked oxygen. They checked pulse, if the word pulse could apply to an alien queen. It was strange, and it was normal. It was life. When the arch lifted, the whole room groaned. Stone dust rained down. A beam twisted, cried out with a long metal note, and then fell. Elias threw his shoulder against it. He was not strong enough alone. Mara came, teeth bared. 2 engineers came. A Zelari guard, still alive and weak, reached out with a long arm and pushed 2. Together, they held the beam just long enough for the medics to pull the Queen free. Elias sank to his knees. His arms shook. He tasted iron. He looked up, and he saw the Queen reach toward him, not with her hand, but with her mind. It was a soft touch. It felt like a warm wind. "Gratitude," Elias smiled. "You're welcome," he said. They carried her to the surface on a wide stretcher. The sun was low and red, and the light made the dust glow like tiny embers. Human soldiers looked up, shocked. Zelari watchers at distant ridges stood and lowered their weapons. For a brief moment, no one remembered who they were supposed to shoot. They remembered only that someone was hurt and someone else was helping. Then the radio cracked with sharp orders. "Captain Corin, stand down. That is a high-value enemy asset. Secure and detain. Repeat, secure and detain." Elias did not answer right away. He looked at the Queen. The medics adjusted her mask. Her eyes watched him, "Sir," Mara said, voice tight. "We need to move. If Command takes her, this will turn ugly." "Get her to the Resolute Medical Bay," Elias said. "We treat her. We treat any Zelari we can reach. We treat our own. We do the right thing and let the universe argue later." Mara nodded, and ran words spread faster than light. By dusk, the human fleet knew that Captain Elias Corin had rescued a Zelari queen. By dawn, the Zelari knew that a human had saved their monarch. The siege stopped for 12 hours, then 24, then a week. The human command sent messages full of legal phrases. The Zelari sent streams of song through the air that made the skin of human listeners tingle and their hearts ache. Someone in the human fleet said, "Maybe we can talk." Someone in the Zelari hive said, "Maybe we can forgive." Elias did not think about history. He stayed by the Queen's bed. The medical bay was clean and bright. There were soft machines that whispered as they worked. There was a quiet hum of the drive core far below. Elias sat in a chair and went over reports and drank black coffee. His back hurt. He did not sleep much. He did not want the Queen to wake up alone. She woke often. Each time, her eyes found Elias first. Each time, she touched his mind very carefully, like someone walking on a new floor, testing each plank. "You are constant," she said once. "I try," Elias said. "Why did you save me?" Elias thought of all the answers he could give. Duty, morality, strategy. He chose the simplest. "Because you were trapped," he said. "Because I was there." She was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice in his mind had a new texture to it. It felt like wet clay being shaped by slow hands. In our history, enemies do not rescue queens. In our history, mercy inside war is rare in ours too, Elias said. But rare is not the same as impossible. She made a soft sound that might have been a laugh in her language. It came through the mind as a ripple. Your kind is loud, bright, quick, like fire. We feared you would burn the whole sky. Elias smiled a little. Some days we do, he said. Other days we try to warm our hands. During those days, ships came and went. Envoys crossed the no man's land with flags raised high. The Resolute carried not just guns, but medical supplies, water, and small comforts. Zellery runners came in pairs, thin and quick, carrying folded resin that could be shaped into gentle splints. For each person hurt, a voice called out, and a hand reached back. For each fear, a small, brave act said, "Not today." Then, as quick as a storm, peace swept the ground. A treaty was signed on a table made of salvaged hive resin and human steel. They called it the Accord of Varanus, and it said simple things: stop shooting, help the hurt, speak before you strike, return the dead with honor. It was not a perfect treaty. It was not a clean ending. But it was a start. The human captains stood in a line, stiff in their uniforms. The Zellery queens hummed in a chord that made tears prick the corners of human eyes. Elias watched from the edge, tired and proud and ready to go home. He did go home. He stood before a human committee and answered quiet questions in a bright room. He told them what he did. He told them why. Some faces softened. Some turned to stone. They made a decision that was not simple either. He would keep his rank, but he would not be placed in a command where he could act on conscience over orders again. It was a clean punishment, dressed as caution. Elias accepted it because he did not want to argue with men who were afraid. After that, he left the busy lanes. He bought a small, round house on a small, round moon with pale green grass that moved like a slow sea. The moon had 2 suns in the sky at certain seasons, and the shadow of the house made a double. At night, broad flowers opened and showed thin silver threads. He planted root vegetables. He fixed things when they broke. He mailed letters to Mara, now a captain. He walked and breathed and tried not to think about the war, but of course he did. Sometimes he woke in the night with the feeling of dust in his mouth. Sometimes he woke with a soft hum in his head, and it was not frightening. It was like a lullaby. 10 years passed like that. The universe did not stay still. It never does. There were small conflicts and big storms. There were new songs and old speeches. On some worlds, children learned a history where a human and a queen saved a day that would have been lost. On other worlds, people still spat when they heard the word Zellery. Peace is not a switch. It is a path, and it is rocky. On a warm evening, Elias sat on his porch with a cup of tea. The sky was lavender. A thin moon hung like a chipped plate. The grass made the soft sea sound. He did not feel young or old. He felt like a man who had carried something heavy for a long time and finally set it down. Then the air changed. His cup rattled in its saucer. The porch light flickered and went out. The night insects stopped their whisper. From far above, a low hum grew, not like thunder, not like engines, but something between, something that tasted like storm and memory. Elias stood. He shaded his eyes. The stars vanished behind a shape so vast and dark it felt like a missing piece cut out of the sky. Lights blinked along its edges like slow, patient eyes. It moved with the care of a hand reaching into a box of glass. He did not run. He did not reach for a weapon. He only watched as the shape came lower and lower, and his heart beat hard and slow. A wind rushed across the grass. The house creaked. Small stones slid along the ground like they had minds. A ship settled on the flat field beyond the house. It was Zellery. It had the long, sweeping curves of their style, like a creature that swam through light and darkness both. As the engines cooled, the hum became softer. Not gone, never gone, but gentler. A ramp unfolded with the smooth patience of a waking cat. Figures walked down. They were tall, with that same onyx gleam. Their armor shone dully. They carried long staffs. They moved like dancers. They did not point weapons at the house. They did not spread out like a net. They formed a path, and between them walked a figure taller than the rest, crown crest catching the last violet light. Elias knew her before she spoke. His breath left him in a quiet sound that was almost laughter and almost sobbing. Queen. Sarathana stopped at the edge of his old wooden steps. Close now, Elias could see the thin filigree patterns on her crest. He could see small silver scars at her joints. He could see the way her eyes reflected the very faint light like deep wells. Her mind touched his mind, and for a moment the years fell away. He was in a dusty room with sunlight slanting through cracks. He was braced under a failing beam. He was looking into these eyes and saying, "You're welcome," as if it were nothing. "Elias Corrin," she said. His name in her voice sounded like a bell struck underwater. It made his chest ache in a good way. "Your Majesty," he said, not certain what else to call her. She looked at his small house, his field, his chair with its worn cushion. She looked at the little rows of root vegetables. She looked at the cup of tea, still steaming faintly. She looked back at him. Then, very slowly, she bent. She knelt. The guards behind her shifted, confused and tense. A queen did not kneel. A queen did not place her hands on rough wood and bow her head. A queen did not lower her crown before anyone. But she did. The night was silent and full. The stars were a ring of cold fire far away. The grass sea paused to watch. Elias did not know what to do. He stepped down one step, then another, until he stood on the ground at the same level as her bowed head. He did not touch her. He waited. When she raised her face, her eyes were bright. Her mind voice held something new, a thin edge of pain or joy or both at once. "I have come," she said, "to give thanks and to ask for help." Elias kept his own voice simple, because big moments need small words. "What do you need?" he asked. Her gaze flickered to the sky, to the vast ship. For a heartbeat, he felt a trembling chord, like many voices far away, trying to hold one note. Then it was gone, and only her voice remained. "My people are failing, a sickness without a single body. It eats memory. It eats the pattern of us. It came from the old war, from wounds in the world and in our blood. We tried to sing against it. We tried to weave around it. Cannot. I have searched the stars for a key. I believe that key lives in you." He did not speak at first. He thought of cells and strands, of old medics on the Resolute searching for new ways to stitch wounds. He thought of myths where a king must drink from a cup carried by a peasant. He thought of a time when he chose to help because someone was trapped. "Why me?" he asked softly. "You were exposed to our songs, to our wounded mind. You are marked by it. Your body remembers our melody without breaking. You carry what we cannot make." She paused, and the next words felt like a bow drawn across a string. "And you saved me. Gratitude is a simple word. My people never learned how large it can be." Elias looked at her kneeling figure and felt a strange tightness in his throat. It was not fear. It was the feeling of a weight rising from a place he had carried it so long he forgot it was there. "I will come," he said. The guards shifted again, this time in something like relief. Far above, soft lights on the ship brightened and dimmed, like a pulse. The night insects found their courage and sang again. The porch light flickered back to life, as if embarrassed to have missed the moment. But not everyone would sing with them. News traveled fast. Satellites that were not supposed to be there turned their eyes. A dozen screens on a dozen worlds lit up with the same headline: "Zellery Queen lands on human moon, demands meeting with war captain," in offices and cafes. In barracks and bedrooms, people spoke sharply. Old pain wakes quick when someone touches it. On channels where soldiers gathered, voices grew hard. On channels where healers gathered, voices grew intense. The Galactic Council, a slow machine, began to spin. Elias did not have those voices in his yard. He had the grass sea. He had the quiet hum of an alien ship like a sleeping animal. He had a queen who did not know how to ask for help without kneeling. He went inside for his jacket, because the night had turned cool. He locked his door not because he feared thieves, but because habit is a kind of comfort. He came back and stood where the queen could see him, and nodded once. "Let's go," he said. They walked up the ramp together. The Zelari ship smelled like clean stone and something like rain. The floor gave a little under his feet, a gentle bounce. Soft lights glowed along the walls. The guards led them through an archway that curved like a rib. The ship's heart was a high chamber with a wide view. Through a transparent shell, Elias saw his little moon. The pale green field, the open porch, a cup of tea cooling forever on the step. A soft platform rose under their feet and carried them higher. Screens unfolded from the air like petals. On them shapes moved and changed. Spirals, lattice, webs. A human doctor would call them models. A Zelari queen would call them songs given form. Sarathana looked at him. When she spoke into his mind again, her voice was softer still. Careful not to push. You were afraid, she said. A little, he said. Mostly I am awake. It has been a long time since I felt this awake. In the glass beyond, a tiny point of light moved from the dark edge of space toward the ship. Another followed. Then more. Human satellites. Human observers. Human worry. She saw them too. The guards stiffened. The ship's hum deepened. One note lower. Elias shook his head. No sudden moves, he said. If they think you are stealing me, they will do something foolish. If they think I am going of my own will, they will still do something foolish, but maybe slower. Sarathana's crest tilted, an alien nod. The ship dimmed its lights, as if a great animal had lowered its eyes. He stepped closer to the transparent shell and raised his hand. For a silly moment, he waved at the dots of human machines, like a man waving at birds. If any camera saw him, if any operator wondered what that little motion meant, he hoped they would hear it loud. I'm going because I choose to. Behind him, the screens shifted. One spiral brightened. One lattice turned and aligned with another. A small tone rang like the first string of a harp plucked alone. Sarathana's presence warmed. It felt like sunrise inside a chest. It begins, she said, and as the ship lifted from the field, as the house with the porch and the cup of tea grew small, as the quiet of his moon became the quiet of a star's black border, Elias felt no anger, no regret. He felt the same simple truth that had held him under a falling beam and drove him into a broken hive 10 years ago. Someone was trapped. He was there. The human who saved me once did so again. His name was Elias Corrin. He gave his life that my people might live. I kneel before his memory. She bent down in front of everyone, her crest low, her hands folded, the queen of an entire species bowing to a single man. Cameras flashed. The galaxy watched. Even those who hated the Zelari felt something shift inside. From this day forward, she continued, the Zelari will guard humanity as kin. Our children will learn his name. Our ships will fly with your flag beside ours. You taught us that compassion is stronger than fear, and that courage needs no crown. The chamber rose in quiet applause that grew into thunder. Even Counselor Vess bowed his head, the return weeks later. On a quiet moon, the same where Elias once lived, a monument was built. It was not grand, just a smooth black stone with a small engraving. He chose mercy. Twice, Queen Sarathana came alone one night. She touched the stone and whispered softly, You are not gone, Elias Corrin. You live in every Zelari breath, in every harmony that holds us together. You showed me what it means to be alive, to care, to risk, to forgive. The wind rustled through the grass like a soft chorus. For a moment, the stars above flickered, and she felt something faint, a pulse, a warmth in her mind, like a familiar presence. You're welcome. Her breath caught. For the first time since his death, she smiled. The legacy years passed. The Zelari and humans became allies. Together, they built ships that could sing across galaxies. Their scientists discovered how to weave empathy into artificial minds. Children of both races studied side by side, learning two histories that had become one. In classrooms, teachers told the story of the man who saved a queen and the queen who saved her people. Some said it was a myth. Others said it was truth. The queen herself, now older, would visit and tell the children it was both. Because mercy, when given freely, becomes legend. And when the lights dimmed and the stars came out, she would sometimes look up and feel the same warmth again, faint, but steady like someone watching, proud and quiet. From among the stars, final lines the galaxy had seen many wars and endless empires. But in its long, cold memory, one story burned brighter than most, not of conquest or technology, but of a single human choice that echoed through 1,000 worlds. In the end, it was not the strongest who changed the stars. It was the kindest.